Bibbles and Popples, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Fiction&Flora. You can call me Flora, and today we are doing my January wrap-up. January was actually my birthday month, so I was not really motivated to read books. I'm gonna be honest. I was too excited about the fact that it was my birthday, and I got to see my friends for the first time in like a year. Since I moved to a new state, I don't get to see them very often, so I was just so excited to see them. I really didn't read that much at the beginning of the month, and then I read everything else in the tail end of the month. That being said, I only read I read 6 books, and you know what? That's a lot to a lot of people, so I'm gonna be proud of my 6 books. Is it not that much for me? Sure, but I should be kind to myself and accept my reading at any level. I'm not gonna apologize for only reading 6 books. Anyway, let me tell you about which ones I read. First one I read is Otherlands, A Journey Through Earth's Extinct Worlds by Thomas Halliday. I really enjoyed this story. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. This is a non-fiction that tells about Earth's prehistory. So there are humans discussed in the book, but they are not the focus, and they do not have a prominent role in a lot of this story. We are talking about like the mammoth steps and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed this. I didn't retain everything. It's something that I'm probably gonna read again, but in everything that I read, it was so interesting, and I just love natural history so much because the Earth is so freaking cool, and I just it was such a good time. Highly recommend the audiobook. I co-read the audiobook with the physical book, which unfortunately I don't have on me because I am an influencer and I let a coworker borrow it. But I highly recommend doing both of those. One, because the audiobook is great for knowing the pronunciation because you're getting a lot of scientific names and I ain't trying all that Latin. But also because if you, like myself, enjoy watching nature documentaries, it has the same nature documentary vibe. It's very soothing, and you can also see that they have a few illustrations in it, and it's also nice because at the beginning of each chapter they show you a map of like kind of the area on Earth. No, at the beginning of each chapter they show you a map of the specific area on Earth at that specific point in time that they are discussing, and it's great, and I love it, and I like this book so much. Highly recommend. I don't know who did the cover art, unfortunately, because I still don't actually know how to find that out online. I've tried looking these things up, and every single time they just show me the cover. So if you know how I could do that without having to physically own the book every time, that'd be great, because I feel like cover artists and designers should be shouted out more often. The next book I read was The Test of Extinction by Ray Naylor. This one I gave it 4 stars. This is a new release. It came out on January 16th, 2024. I read the ebook from the library, from Libby. And I was so lucky to get it so quickly. Go me. Actually, I didn't even do the ebook. I did the audiobook. It was good. I liked the audiobook, and I think it made me enjoy it more than I would have any other way, simply because we are reading a very like personal narrative. I find it hard to describe this book without spoilers, but let me tell you what it's about. This book, we are following a conservationist who has spent her life protecting and advocating for elephants, and to keep them safe from poachers and exploitation. And in doing so, this has led to her death. You find this out like on the back of the book. I'm not spoiling. And they use her brain. At some point they do a scan of her brain to save a copy of it. And then in the future, they bring back mammoths. And then they wake up her little brain scan and they're like, hey, crazy idea. How about we put your consciousness in the head of a mammoth and you teach our mammoths how to survive? Because it turns out survival is not just being, we don't want them to be zoo animals. We want them to live in the wild, and they need someone to teach them how to do it. And you know elephant behavior, and so mammoth behavior is the same thing. And that kind of is the bare bones, and there's so much more that goes on in this story that if I explained it, first of all, would not make a lot of sense without you like knowing the ins and outs of a lot of things, and two, would just ruin the entire narrative. Highly recommend. I will be reading from Ray Naylor more. I just, when I get to it, I'll let you know. The next one is also a new release. This is a graphic novel, Lunar New Year love story by Jin Luen Yang, and the illustrations are by Li Yun Pham. This was released January 9th, 2024. This is a YA graphic novel. It has a romantic plot to it, and like the romantic element is pretty central to the plot. However, I don't think it's the point. It's very much a coming of age. It's very much dealing with your emotions and your mental health, and dealing with the traumas caused by your parents. I feel like a lot of us, if not all of us, have a certain amount of trauma, whether that was on purposeful or inadvertent, that are just dealt with because you are completely dependent on adults who aren't people. And it's also about learning that your parents are people and they are fallible creatures, and it's about so many other things. But the synopsis of the story is that we're following a young girl named, what is her name? Valentina Tran. She goes by Val. And as far as she's concerned, there's a curse on her family where they are unlucky in love. And so for like all of her childhood, she's very excited about Valentine's Day. But then there's this one inciting incident where it like breaks her heart, and she's like, actually, love is dead to me. And then one year during Lunar New Year, she receives a note and she feels a spark, and now she's like, oh, I believe in love again. I'm determined to find love. And then things go off from there. There's again more that goes on in the story, but I would be ruining the plot if I told you. All I'm gonna say is I do recommend it. I give this one a 3-star. Illustrations are beautiful. The third one I read was also a new release. I'm really killing it with the new release games. Okay, shout out to my library. Oh my god. This one I read on Kindle. Wow, this one is the sequel to my last month, Reborn as Demonic Tree Volume 2 by Xcarnation. Like I said, this was published February 13th, 2024. I read this during my birthday weekend. How exciting. And I liked it. I gave it 3 stars. I didn't like it as much as the first one, but this one was just as good. I can't tell you much about the plot because that would ruin the first book, so sorry. But we are getting to learn more about the world, about the different aspects of it and the different groups within it, and we're preparing for a large event. This is such a generic, well, all I can do is give you generics. What I will say is that I enjoyed it. I am planning to continue in the series. I've already pre-ordered the next one that comes out in May. Can't wait for it. I'm really enjoying reading from the perspective of a tree. I'm having a good time. And then the only other thing I can say is that the names are still distracting. Like, I don't want it to be, and like the longer you read, it's less distracting, but it's still distracting, especially when our main character points out how certain things are like, he's like, oh, the Asian inspired architecture. So you are a person who knows that Asia exists because our main character was reborn as a tree after living in our world. So he's aware that Asia as a continent exists, at least to him. So him acknowledging that, and acknowledging that there's Chinese architecture, is wild, because then everyone we meet has the most European name I've ever heard in my fucking life. And I will not get over it. I refuse. That being said, I still recommend it. I had a good time. I will be continuing the story. The next one I read is another new release. Like I said, shout out to my library. This Wretched Valley by Jenny Kiefer. This is a survival supernatural horror. It's based on the Love Pass incident. Look it up, it's weird. But basically these four students, some of them are friends, some of them are just classmates, go into the woods of, is it Kentucky? Somewhere in middle America. And what they're doing is they are trying to find a mountain that heretofore has not been known. One of them is a climber. Basically they get here and then freaky stuff starts happening, and that's kind of the entire book. And they don't hide it. It's not like something where you're like, ooh, I wonder how it's gonna be freaky. It's kind of, the book kind of spoils itself, which is why I only gave it 3 stars, because like nothing was surprising about this book and nothing was explained, and I don't need things to be explained. I think it's okay for a horror book to just be like, you know what, sometimes shit happens. But I just feel like this book wanted to explain itself and then didn't. Like the book wanted to explain and then it just stopped, but whatever. The other thing I will say is that I think this book could have benefited from being shorter. I think if they took out some of the scenes, it could have been great, because at some point when I was reading it, I think it was 50% or 70% of the way through, I was just like, hurry it up, get to the point, because there were scenes that felt like repetitions, and maybe that was the point, but it didn't feel like it was the point. It felt like I was supposed to be feeling shocked or something, but I wasn't. All I was feeling was like, yeah, of course, this has happened before, why are you surprised? You know, like I was getting frustrated with their characters because they were making the same choices. And again, that might be the point. The futility of escape might have been the thing, but all I'm saying is it got old fast. Next, and the last book I read in February is The Cat Who Saved Books by Sosuke Natsukawa and translated by Louise Heal Kawai. This one, honestly, this one wasn't even on my radar, but my friend took me book shopping for birthday. And I was like, oh my god, that looks so cute, because I am just really into cozy, well, I'm into translated fiction, as you know, but I've been really into cozy translated fiction. Like the Kamigawa Food Detectives looks so fucking cute. There's also the Welcome to the Hyunamdong bookshop. There's also so many other like shorter, not short, but shorter translated like cozy fiction that I kind of want to read, and this one was kind of recommended to me, and then my other friend was like, oh, my friend likes that, you should read it. And then I read it. I gave it 3 stars because ultimately I like the plot and I like the writing and I like the story. I hated every character. Actually, that's a lie. I reluctantly liked our main character, Precious Baby. I liked reluctantly our main character. Every other character, wait, no, his aunt, who we met for like 5 seconds at the very end, I liked that character as well. But everyone else was just like, get your life, get off, move. Like, I felt like the characters were taking away from the story, and that's not what you want to do. And it's not even that I hated all the characters, because I liked some of the antagonists. I hated the protagonists. So they're like, our main characters are a depressed little boy. He's not even a little boy. A depressed teenage boy who just lost his only guardian. And so I think maybe that's why I'm a little bit more sympathetic and kind to him. And then you briefly meet their confident kid, a grade above him, his class president, and a cat who talks. The cat who saves books, though. And of these 4 characters, who are the ones we see reoccurring throughout the story, and the guy above them, barely we see him. Of the 3 characters, I like just our depressed boy. I think maybe I'm just a little judgy. I do recommend this book. Like I said, I like the actual plot. I like the antagonist. Just the main characters who we are stuck with the entire book were irritating for me. But they might not be for you. So don't discount this book because of me. I gave it 3 stars, which should tell you that even with me being irritated the whole way through, I still think it's a good book. And those are all the books that I managed to read in February. I'm, like I said, quite pleased with myself. I am hoping to read even more because as the sun stays out longer and longer, I have the motivation to read more and more. What did you read in February? Have you read any of the new releases that I talked about? Are you interested in reading any of the new releases I talked about? Let me know. Keep me up to date. And I will see you in the next one.